You know, I got a hypothetical. You know,
Nah, go for it.
I got a hypothetical. I saw it today, and it was
Well,
You
you're
started,
gonna,
brother.
gonna try and test me again.
Oh, we've got
not
hit
not
bloods
yet.
as well.
Not yet.
I'm still waiting for my dinner, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for my dinner.
Huh?
This guy, see, look. Huh?
Nah,
I
hey,
gifted
bro.
him with my time,
This
my love.
bro. This
And he goes,
economy. In this economy, you want to be doing dinner,
I don't care, bro.
Bro.
You
No.
should have been saving.
Alright, best we could do is Nando's.
But that's what
Word.
I'm worth. Live
Oh,
it.
right. Where did it go?
Live it.
Oh, I can't even find it. You know, you might as well do the hit blunts, yeah. And then if I come across it again, I'll read it out. So I should screenshot and bookmark stuff whenever I see it.
I know you don't went for the hardest ones this time. Yeah, look at you. Look
No,
at look
these
at
ones are to catch you out. Don't worry, don't worry.
Alright, cool.
They're just interesting ones.
Mhm.
Alright, cool. The first one is one day they'll make a Harry Potter remake, and gonna just do that again.
Yeah, do that again.
One day they'll make a Harry Potter remake, and there will be nothing to do with the ones that we seen before with Daniel Radcliffe.
What do you mean?
It's gonna be a whole different franchise, a new kid.
That's what happens.
No, but don't you think it's wild? Like,
Nah, it's like Star Wars.
Star Wars.
no, but they haven't tried to remake the first couple episodes.
Oh, they're gonna remake the Harry Potters.
Yeah, they eventually. Like,
Oh, I thought they're gonna do like a trilogy or a
Nah, nah,
prequel.
not add to it. I'm saying like they're just gonna do a whole.
Oh,
new-
that's long. That's
for the next
But
like in the next
listen,
40 years.
I'm 40 next month.
Damn.
No, in October. So I've seen bare films that have been remade and they're
Yeah.
just dead. So it's like,
What's some examples of films that you think are
I'm
dead?
trying to think now, man. What's a film?
Spider-Man was probably the only
Well,
successful
there's
one.
different Spider-Mans though. There's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there's the Amazing Spider-Man, blah blah. But to be honest, the ones that have done well when they've done a remake, I'm trying to think now.
I'll just throw some names out: Terminator, Predator.
But
Jurassic
not
Park,
really
probably.
remakes though, because you had
Right.
Terminator 1, 2, 3, and then you had Rise of Terminator. Right? There's so many different
there's
ones.
sequels.
It just depends. There was something I watched the other day. and
What
it was
about
like-
Jurassic Park?
See, I don't watch Jurassic Park, man. Like
Yeah, nah,
dinosaurs.
fair
do
enough.
No,
nothing
other than
for
the
me.
first one, it's just dead.
I
Right,
never,
it's the same thing.
I
over
never
again.
seen it. Only thing
the
I know
concept isn't that hard to
all I know is that they were in a bus and then there's one going
Yeah.
all over the top. I don't know what's going on.
Some mad scientist doing something and it causes problems. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
these
Some
animals. just
Humans
yeah.
playing
flip
God.
out. Yeah, that's what happens. But
RoboCop.
RoboCop. Oh, okay,
That was a cold film.
No, so I will still prefer the original.
What?
When I grew up, original
Oh, yeah, yeah,
RoboCop
yeah.
1 and 2, like legendary films, like
Yeah,
Murphy.
yeah.
Well, yeah, Murphy was a.
Who?
Murphy is the guy, the cop that gets killed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's not in there.
I swear he is
No.
RoboCop.
in the remake,
I'm
isn't
gonna,
he?
I'm gonna go now.
You sure?
He's not in a remake.
Isn't he?
I don't know.
Nah,
man.
he's
Who is it?
I haven't watched
It's
it.
one Bolo done though. He's
don't
a
know.
Bolo guy.
I don't know.
But then again,
Some-
I haven't watched this film since like a bit like early days.
Yeah.
No, the remake came out like 2015.
Yeah. I
It
didn't
come
watch
on.
it.
No.
I didn't watch
The
it.
remake, it's not that old.
No, okay. So then, has it been remade twice then?
No, it's been remade once. The remake didn't come out that long ago.
I
Are
don't
you
know.
sure?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. But I prefer originals personally. The only thing that improves is the CGI and the special effects. But
Yeah, true.
the thing is, like Star Wars, for example, they did the first three, and those in the 70s and then the 80s, and then they had the prequel, which
Yeah.
came out like 99 or so, just before I left school. Those were sick, and then the ones that they've done not too great. Do you know what I mean?
The
But
latest one.
Star Wars is consistent. Star Trek as well. The new ones they did in 2009 was sick. That was proper. That was probably one of the best Star Treks I've ever watched.
I think.
What about the Chris Pine one? Have you seen that one?
Chris Pine.
I think it's Is it Discovery?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
that's also a good one.
Yeah, that one looked good.
Yeah,
It's like
but-
an action.
I
kind of
ain't
Star
ever
Trek.
seen Star Trek, bro.
You should watch it, man.
Yeah, the
Nah.
Wrath of Khan is a good one. Really good. But you'll be laughing at the
Is that
CGI.
that's the one where it's like Spock and them, man, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Live long and prosper and all that. Yeah.
What?
It's okay. It's before your time.
This guy's gonna say this for the whole.
Originals are the best. So let's just stick with that.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, what's the second one?
Oh yeah, I was even looking at RoboCop. The biggest joke on mankind is computers asking humans to prove they are not robots.
Yeah, it's a bit mad still.
How do you know? Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, because
Yeah,
they'd be
with the
asking,
bots.
"How are we sure you're not one of us?"
Yeah.
And then
No, they say how you sure you're not a robot.
yeah,
They
that's
don't
what I'm
even say
saying.
one of us. They say
Yeah,
you're
well,
a robot.
computers are basically robots as well.
Listen, AI. He spoke about Terminator. That's a prime example.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going. So,
Not exactly.
well, it's transhumanism and all that stuff. Trust me, man.
Nah, do you know what it is? Yeah, it's going to become. It's gonna get into a point where, and very soon as well, where AI is gonna be the smartest thing on the planet, and it'll go to either one of two tangents. It'll tangent off into the Terminator version, where it's like, okay, humans have made us so that we know what is best for the earth in terms of preservation, climate change, whatever. And then it's really like, okay, the solution is kill off all the humans, we're good.
Yeah.
That's the Terminator tangent, which is quite an extreme, and now everyone thinks. But the other tangent is where it becomes so smart that it's like almost, how can I say it? You see how AI, how you code AI, you code it for machine learning or whatever. It will get to a point where you don't need to do that, where the programs itself become so smart and so hyper developed that it will be able to create other systems for it, and there'll be a thing where it's almost a reverse, where instead of us learning almost like a flip side, because it will be now computers making computers that we have to learn and understand.
Long story short, it's long. Like,
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
The thing is, look at what humans have done to the planet and how humans are going to be. So it's all about self-preservation, like you said. So that's what it's all about. But for me personally, this whole transhumanism thing, it's all about living longer, like cyborgs and all that stuff. It's long.
Yeah.
It's long. Humans can't get it right. So why do you think machines are going to get it right?
I mean, well, then again, it depends on. Essentially, right. I was going to say it depends on who makes the computers, because essentially, I've been reading this book on AI and all that sort of stuff. And essentially, they were saying that for AI to get to either one of those two stages, it is very much dependent on the process of machine learning that it goes through. More so because it's like you're raising a child, the same way that someone can raise a serial killer and someone can raise a president.
Yeah.
It's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's two completely
If you raise
different.
it to think it's the dominant race, then
Exactly.
we're
Whereas
gonna
if you
end up in the Matrix.
Well, we end up being in a world like we're already in. Who's the dominant race? So who thinks they're the dominant race?
True.
I mean, to be fair, they'll kill white people. Well, hopefully they'll kill white people.
Hopefully.
as well,
What do you mean?
as black people. No, that's what I'm saying. No, but
Listen,
if
hopefully.
white
Yeah,
people,
I was like, what are you
no,
talking
but if
about,
white
bro?
people program it to be racist, then we're pissed. But if it's like it hits all of us together, then
Then we're all in this together, innit?
I'm sure in your lifetime, I might be long gone.
Nah, nigga, the stuff I'm talking about is 2029, fam. That's not too long
Godspeed.
around the corner.
I'll be in Ghana or Kenya somewhere in some remote village. That'd be cool.
Well, until they be like, oh yeah, we got this new tech for you guys.
Tech's dangerous, man. So I just
I think it's only dangerous if you don't understand it, to be honest.
But the thing is, there's limits to people's understanding, and the thing with technology that it's always evolving, and like you said, it's going to end up thinking for itself. You've got those bots that are moving by themselves, acting like humans. Trust me, it's a very dangerous path.
It is long, but it's the world we live in.
we
man.
are humans adapt in it. So
Exactly.
like if you see kids now, they can just use.
But how do humans adapt? Give me an example of how they adapt
I mean,
for the benefit of mankind or humankind, should I say?
well, I wouldn't say it necessarily always benefits us, but like we just have to get along with the program. Like when Ford decided, you know what, we're having cars now. People weren't like, nah, I want to walk, I want to use horses still. Like,
Exactly.
you eventually have to learn how to drive. Like,
I hear
you'll be
that.
forced to just learn things.
I hear that.
Yeah.
However, I'm reading a book at the moment called A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and it talks about ego and the egoic state and the egoic voice. And the thing is that there was one part that was very poignant today, and we was talking about the ego in men has been the predominant feature as to why the world is in disarray right now, because of patriarchy, misogyny, all these different things. And ego, women have a lesser ego, and there's a lack of kind of intertwining with nature. So this is why we're kind of where we're at the moment. And it's long. Like literally, I'm saying to you that men, you can't lead just by yourself. It's got to be in unison with women. And that's why I just don't really feel that humans, as we are currently, we're on a progressive path. Look at what's going on in the world. You turn on the news. There's so much bad news. There's so much egos fulfilling their objectives, and it's subconscious. And that's the difficulty. So I do have faith in humanity. I'm not going to say I don't, but I'm just saying where we're at now, it's got to be a major shift. Something's got to happen for us to actually live in a way which is conducive to being in harmony with the earth, because the earth is just like, this is long. Like this.
That's true. Yeah.
My word today is long.
Because even they try to say China's like gonna overtake the US and all these other countries, but when I hear that, I don't really think they're gonna adapt. They're just gonna do the same thing the US has done, but just more.
Yeah.
And that's just gonna cause more damage. So I hear what you're saying about ego. Like they're not necessarily trying to think, how do we evolve and push forward? It's more so, we're gonna do the exact same thing the US has done, but on a greater, larger scale.
Yeah,
which is
probably more elegant scale in the sense that they're not going all like the UK where they've gone and colonized countries through force and through war. The difference with China is that they're using capitalist communism, like a combination, because they had to literally go back to basics and say, right, we're going to produce everything ourselves. We're going to limit the amount of children everybody has, and we're all going to do this together under communism. But now they've got to the point now where they produce pretty much everything in the world. So now they've got the capitalistic power and strength to go to countries and be like, okay, Kenya, you want to build a port? We'll do it for you. We'll pay.
Exactly.
We'll do it. And they'll be like, okay, yeah, great. All right, the first payment is going to be 22 million, and we need that next week. Can you do that? Oh, no. All right, we'll take your infrastructure. And this is what it is that's going on. It's elegant colonialism.
Yep.
So
doing
like
the
you said,
same
it's
thing in
egos.
Nigeria as well.
Nah, they're a bit worse to be.
Who?
No, I think
Chinese.
Then who? Then America and England.
do you know what it is, yeah? Do you know
What they've done to Nigeria, what they're trying to do to Tibet, and what they're trying to take away from Hong Kong, I don't
Not
know.
historically.
nah.
You think about the world stage.
No, historically,
What?
it's ridiculous.
No, what was that guy's name?
Who?
The guy who's killed so many people, millions of people.
Which one?
Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's way before.
Well, yeah, but we're talking history.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, but
ancient.
in terms of like, okay, I hear that in terms of Genghis
Yeah,
Khan.
I mean, like, there's
but
still bad
at the same
people that
time,
come from
do you
there
know how
as well.
many people like? Obviously, this is poor timing in it because the funeral was yesterday. Because this is gonna come out.
The funeral?
Queen Lizzie.
It's on Monday.
Yeah, but this is gonna be on Monday as well.
So it came up. So the funeral's today.
Oh, so the funeral's today. Yeah, so this is bad timing, but them brothers are on different types of crud. Like the amount of people they've killed is ridiculous.
Listen.
And what's crazy is that it's mad because someone like Hitler, who we all learn about, oh yeah, the Holocaust, how X amount of Jews or whatever. But then when you go and talk about people like Napoleon or whatever, and how many people they killed, even in somewhere like Haiti alone, is crazy.
Yeah, but then King Leopold or Belgium
Yeah, exactly.
and Congo,
He's the worst.
in excess of 10 million.
Ridiculous.
And then you talk about slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. You can't even quantify how many people
You can't.
died from that. But that's not seen as relevant because they're not white. And unfortunately, that's the way that the world sees it. Like, unfortunately, the Jewish, they say 6 million in concentration camps, 10 million in Congo straight off the bat. Then you talk about transatlantic slavery over 400 years.
Do you know how many people jumped ship? And
So
what was
many.
crazy is that out of, okay, say if 10 million made it to America, yeah? That's not the amount that they took. Because you're forgetting, they killed people on site when they got there, put them on ships. It's the Africans that were captured that didn't want to, do you know what I mean, didn't want to stay in line, they obviously rebelled and whatnot. They jumped ship or they were killed there. Others also died because of the amount that they're packed in. You know what I mean? All sorts of infections, all this stuff.
Yeah, not being fair.
It's crazy. If you watch there's this one film, Amistad. If you watch it, yeah, it's literally like it's you know, it's like the typical slave films that you see, but this one goes more into depth where it's focused on this one slave in particular where him, his wife, and I think his son were all captured. His son didn't make it. I think his wife jumped ship. His best friends jumped ship, and then they got into a place where he was in America and they were trying to teach him the language and whatnot. And the guy was just like, he's not learning the language and rebelling. Obviously, he's getting whipped. And then it got to a point where I'm vaguely quoting this film, but it got to a point where he was in court, and then it was like, oh, they were saying, oh, this nigga doesn't understand whatever. He's da 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 da, and then all of a sudden, he's speaking English. Like he just starts shouting, "Give us free, give us free," and everyone's like, "Oh, rah!" So they actually are smart, and I think that's sort of like towards the end of the film. But it just goes to show that there's so many people that, you know, so many people's bloodlines are just cut off there.
Well, it's colonialism. If you think about colonialism, you go back to the Crusades and the amount of people that have been killed at the hands of these states. You know, United Kingdom, the monarchy, like that was literally the government. That was the all-encompassing government. And then you had the government as an offshoot later on. But these people are responsible for millions, not billions.
I guess the difference is that with like someone like Hitler, for example, we can all agree it was fucked up. But with like certain things in terms of forcing Christianity upon people, forcing different things in terms of English and whatnot, and people viewing like what you said with imperialism, it's not some people debate whether it's fucked up, whether you know it was good for people. You know, some people like disregard their roots and say, you know what, we weren't civilized back then. But because it's like a hypothetical, and a lot of people said that, you know, maybe if they didn't come to Africa, we'd be better, or maybe we'd be more sustainable.
A million percent.
But because we don't know, a lot of people are like, they don't know.
But and do you know what it is? That's exactly why they did it, because it's a thing where it's one thing to go to a country and say, you know what, we're going to take all of you guys and you're going to come back here and work for us. But it's another to do that and then destroy what's there as well, in terms of destroying the history, making sure that, look, even if these guys come back, they don't know who they are.
But before they did that, they extracted so much technology from Africa.
Yeah.
Education, irrigation, so many different things. And Africa was the birthplace of civilization. And when you talk about the Dark Ages in Europe, the Dark Ages were the time when they were savages.
Yeah.
They were living in caves. They weren't cleaning themselves. Like, it was terrible.
It's so, even, do you know what it is, yeah? Sorry to cut you off here, but, you know, have you guys seen, what's it called? Vikings on Amazon?
No, I'm not watching them same things, man.
No. Watch that, yeah, because it even just goes to show where, obviously,
They need to pay you, man.
No.
This is the first time it's sorry.
No. So Vikings, yeah, basically there's a point in this is a spoiler, but I don't even care. There's a point in the series where it's like the sons of the famous warrior Ragnar Lothbrok decides that, you know what, instead of us just going from Scandinavia to England, I want to go and explore. And they go and explore, and they get to a point where they go to Spain when it was an Arab country, when there was a lot of black people there.
The Moors.
Yeah. And it's like everyone was so, it was just things that they've never seen before. They were looking at silk, different types of cotton, even the food, and it was like, nah, we can't. The guys was even saying, the main guy, he was like, I don't even feel right like raiding this place. But obviously Viking in the thing is just to go and raid and do whatever. But he was like, I don't even feel right, because it's like, this place has so much that we don't even know.
And that's exactly what it is that when you look at the history, so much was extracted from Africa and then implemented within Europe. And all the scholars and people that were coming to these countries, they were helping to upskill these countries. And this is what people don't really understand, is that when you look at the pyramids, for example, even to this day,
no one knows.
No one can know. We made those. Black people made those. African people made those. But they can't replicate them. They're never the true dimensions of the pyramids and the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Yeah.
Even the three pyramids here, the Great Pyramid of Giza, they're in line with the stars, like literally.
Yeah, literally.
Center. So what I'm trying to say to you is that we've regressed. Like,
100%.
even though we have technology, certain technology has been suppressed, because if you hold the technology, you hold that power, you hold education, you're in control of that, then you control the world. And that's what's happened, because you go back to the Sumerians and all these different people, that there were things that they understood and they did that we don't even understand now.
Yeah.
We can't even quantify. So when you talk about white imperialism, they talk about us as savages, they were talking about themselves. They were projecting what was going on with them to us. And that's why they were saying we were less than human, we were this, we were that. That's how we found them. And as people, this is the measure of African people. Like, when I went to Kenya and Uganda, the amount of people I met randomly through people that I was working with that invited me to their house. Come to my house, come have dinner tonight. They didn't know me from nowhere. That shows you how we are as a people.
Yeah.
We will welcome you. When the pilgrims went to the Africans, to native, to America and to the Native Americans, then what did they do? They invited them to a banquet. They invited them to the house.
Exactly.
Gave them food. That's a measure of us as a people. When do you hear of us going to other countries that are led by white people and they're saying, right, we're going to give you food? And that's kind of customs. And this shows you, as people, we're very meek. And this is why we're in this situation. Because unfortunately, when you look at white imperialism, they understand that they have a negative birthright and they're dying out. And that's why they do what they do, because it's survival mode.
Yeah,
it's
that's
survival
true.
mode.
Yeah.
And they have to project what they are onto us. And then that justifies us not being human, so that we can be killed in our droves and raped and pillaged and all these subjugated. And that's what happens. And that's where we're at. And people are upholding that racial hierarchy. And without that racial hierarchy, a lot of people don't have nothing.
I beg you move the like and subscribe thing.
Oh, sorry.
How do you think are some ways people are upholding these values in terms of society today?
Well, look at the Little Mermaid, the new Little Mermaid.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Showcases you. And
segue. That was an amazing segue. I wanted to talk about that today, but I didn't know how I was gonna bring it up.
Yeah. Listen, like, I've not even followed it too much, but I know there's outrage. Like, and this is the thing, is that some white people, have fantastical ideas in their mind, about mermaids, that they can only be white. But then you support a royal family who live in a fantasy, who dress up in costumes and in things that are not even elegant. It's like fancy dress, and you respect that. But yet, when you got a black mermaid, you're like, no, this is terrible. This is like, it's over. Like, but it's fantasy. Yeah. And that just shows that your fantasy in your mind is not multiracial, multi-ethnic. It's just about, okay, white is right. The Little Mermaid's white. That's it.
Yeah, it's a bit.
You know what I mean? Same with James Bond. Oh my gosh, a black
Idris
James
Elba,
Bond.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, no way, we can't have that there.
Do you know what was dumb? The fact that they were more entertaining towards a female James Bond than a black James Bond.
Yeah.
But the whole point of the character of James Bond is that he's almost this womanizer, secret agent, where it's just like he talks his way through anything. Do you think if he's going to all these, like, I'm not even trying to name drop countries or just, drop shade or whatever, but if he's gonna go chat to a couple Russian men and do undercover mission, you think they're listening to a woman, bruv? Like, let's be real.
No,
it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
It's not what type of woman.
Well,
exactly. Then that's gonna change the whole narrative of James Bond. Instead of him becoming like a womanizer, charismatic, most people are just gonna see her as a slut.
Yeah. Well, it's misogyny.
Let's be real.
And that's patriarchy.
Do you know what I mean?
But in the spy world, there's the honeypot thing where you lure people, attract them and stuff. So
yeah,
it could still work.
I mean, women could do that better than any man.
Yeah, exactly.
Facts.
Maybe the film will be 30 minutes, but
still be dead off. Yeah,
still be a good
I dealt with him. I got the information.
I said, look, all you gotta do is these secrets. I'm just saying, you know.
But men, when they get that a little something, they're lying down in the bed, they chat.
Exactly,
so
bro.
That's the way to do it. But
I'm saying,
going back to Little Mermaid, it's just, I'm never surprised at these things. I'm never surprised because I know the majority of people cannot accept the progress of black people in general, or African peoples, or people that are non-white. And this is where you get so much outrage, and I'm never surprised anymore. Before, I'd be surprised when I was younger, but now I'm like, this is what it is. This is the way the world is, because of that racial hierarchy. White is right. White is at the top. Anything less than that, is subhuman. You don't deserve to be up here. But there's an illusion when you talk about whiteness and you talk about privilege, because what was given to white people, everyday white people, was that you've got better rights than the black guys. Yeah, because you're part of us. But you're not, because you're still being exploited. You're still working class. You're still paying tax. You're still having to work the land. So there's this illusion of whiteness that, okay, I'm part of that. And this is what you're seeing, a massive outpouring with the Queen and the royal family, because it's about identity. Yeah, 100%. It's cultural identity. Without the royals in this country, who are some people? And yet you see in America, they exited from this whole system of feudalism, the Queen, blah blah blah, the king, and that's why they had the revolution and the republic and all this, the army, the whole, and now people are mourning the Queen, like, oh my gosh, it's so sad. But you broke away. That's your very existence. That's what defines America as a republic.
Do you know what's crazy? Yeah, some, like, obviously with the Queen's death, it's a thing where, like, we even speaking about, because we found out literally on the way here last week, and there was a thing where, like, we weren't necessarily sad, we weren't happy. It was just like, rah. More so because it was like, it's an end of an era, in a sense where our lifetime, your lifetime, and my mum's lifetime, it's just been her. Yeah. And it's a thing where it's like, oh, I didn't even deep that. Right, we're gonna need to get new money. Do you know what I mean? Things are gonna start changing in terms of, like, government. It's not necessarily gonna be. I think they changed the police uniform.
Yeah, they have to.
All that sort of stuff. Yeah. So it's gonna be like crazy changes, and we were just deep in, like, damn, a lot is gonna start changing. But it's not a thing where it's like I'm dropping to my knees and I'm weeping like certain people are. Do you know what I mean? And it's just a bit crazy, because although you don't know this woman, it's very weird the way people are mourning. I mean, if you get what I mean.
But yeah, as you said, I'm indifferent to the whole thing. But I was like, it is like human life is gone. Like that's for me.
Yeah, that's how I was seeing it. So
when I was seeing, like, other podcasts, and I wanted to touch on this as well, like other podcasts. Obviously, they were saying what you're saying in terms of what they've done in history. But I was seeing them saying R.I.P. Bozo, the stupid internet culture. For me, on the day, that's a bit wild. If you want to have a talk about imperialism,
a bit.
On the day, that's wild. Yeah, I agree. That's wild,
bro. You know, as you know, I know them MI5 dons were like, yep, him, yep.
No,
Jack,
but
you seen
they were
this?
Americans. They were Americans.
But
No, even the British ones, bro. There was one account that was making memes all day. It got suspended the next
so
day.
what? It's
Memes. I hear it though.
Yeah,
Because when
yeah.
Maradona and people and like that die.
It's freedom of speech.
Yeah.
These are what these countries are supposed to be built on. But what you got to understand is that we're not living in a democratic country, and people are under that illusion that we're living in a democracy.
Of course not.
Because when you're putting up saying that's not my king, I don't respect the royals, and you're getting arrested for that. What does that tell you?
True.
That freedom of speech is null and void. It doesn't exist. So for me, I don't care. Like personally, the Queen died. So what? 96. So what? Like you did nothing for me. What you've done is extracted from the world, and it's not just African people. You go every part of the world in terms of the Commonwealth and what they did. They're sitting on nearly 30 billion
Yeah, it's
worth
ridiculous.
of wealth and resources and assets, and yet who's footing the bill for the funeral?
Us.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm being ordained by God to be this. It's a farce. It's people living in delusional mindsets, and I don't have the time for it. That's like me walking around saying, I'm King Sace, you must exalt me and you must pay for this now. I'm not going to pay for anything because I've been ordained by God.
I mean,
You would say I'm mad.
I just view them as like the original influencers, to be fair.
Proper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because when you compare them to the Kardashians in terms of the amount of power they have, it's pretty much the
You're
same.
going to need to land on
What?
this one.
Are you
No,
right?
no,
If-
let him land.
If we all have daughters and Kim Kardashian says the new diet is this and this, most of our daughters are gonna have that same diet, do that same thing. If Kim Kardashian says, you know what, to make your best show ever, to have the best ratings, you need to fight your own sister. A lot of girls will be fighting their sister. There's a lot of bad habits
Let
in
him
today's
land.
generation that the Kardashians have done. If the Queen said, listen, we're going to do this and that, she might not decree it as a law, but just says it. A lot of people in this country are going to do it.
There's just one word I had a problem. Our. Is that a new language or... you said
Bro,
our
I'm
daughters,
telling
'cause
you-
I don't know about... You know what I'm saying?
Bro, I'm telling you, your daughter, you think...
I disagree fully.
No. But you know,
Bro.
I to an extent get what you're trying to get at, but it's not the same.
Listen,
Trust me.
It's
the
not the
level,
same.
The
It's
level of
influence.
influence that the Kardashians have and the amount of they've changed culture.
influence and power are two different things.
Yeah, that's
And influence, yeah, that's fine. The Queen doesn't really influence; they enforce. That's the difference because you've got the law behind them, so they decree that they're going to do certain things. When they say they're going to do this, do that. For example, the inheritance tax. King Charles, yeah, is going to inherit all of her things, all of her assets, yeah. And the standard thing in this country is a 40% inheritance tax must be paid to the government.
Yeah.
That's been waived.
Yeah, but see now that I understand because it's like the royals are like, how can I say it? They're above government in the sense where
How?
Not really.
in a sense where they don't obviously it's not a thing where they can just do whatever the hell they want when technically they can. It's a thing where the government comes to them to sort of pass laws or certain
No,
laws.
they enforce that.
In certain
they
laws.
no. But to be honest, the government doesn't, and the monarchy, there should be no interference.
Yeah.
The Queen, they can consult and they can talk about it, but she's not actually able or supposed to discuss political matters in the sense that, okay, well, I feel you should do this and you should put this law on board, whatever it may be. That's something which they've done in secret. And the fact of the matter is that's come to light now, and you're saying to people, okay, well, you don't actually have to pay this inheritance tax, but
Wow.
you do, and you do, and you do. So that's saying, do as I say, not as I do.
Well, the difference with that is that the UK government actually makes money off of the Queen's estate. So the royal estate, they make, let's say, I think the last figure I saw was 250 million.
Yeah.
And they'll send the Queen like 80 million, and then the UK Treasury will keep the rest. So that's why I think they don't really take anything because
It's like they're almost paying themselves.
yeah, like what's the point?
doesn't necessarily make sense.
It's already ours anyway, technically, like not
Yeah.
legally, but they already make most of the profit from it. So it's like
They're in league with each other, so
yeah, that's why I don't. That's why I hear what you're saying. Like it's wrong technically. Like they're getting preferential treatment. But that's why I've compared them to the Kardashians because
But
in
they're
LA,
not above the law. They're not above the law, though. That's what I'm trying
yeah,
to say.
but
to
in
you.
Yeah.
I understand
capitalism,
with the
money
influence.
is pretty much above.
Of course
the
it
law.
does, but capitalism alone isn't just about money. It's about the power. It's about the systems. It's about the construct.
Yeah.
The social constructs. All these different things. So they're all intertwined into that. But one thing that there is a commonality is the exploitation, because the Kardashians will exploit people.
Yeah.
For their financial gain.
recently came out with his statement about how the mum made him change scenes.
He wasn't
3
bothered.
times.
He wasn't bothered when he was making bare dough. And this is what I'm trying to say. Is
Yeah,
that
and he was-
Yeah, but they're billionaires, and he's
But do you-
obviously
do you-
Ray J's doing well for himself, but
do
they're
I find,
billionaires.
do I find the most fucked up of that whole situation? The fact that the mum watched her daughter getting rasped 3 different
And that
times.
shows you where you're at. But then
3 different times.
But there's no commonality. There's more commonality with the royal families because they're paedophilia. You know, Prince Andrew's a paedophile. They paid 12 million to the person. So
Yeah,
the fact of
that's
the matter is,
crazy.
This is common knowledge.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's the exploitation, but also there are no boundaries when it comes to what they're doing and what they're trying to achieve. And that's the same with the monarchy and the colonialism, is that there's no boundaries. Like, we're gonna do whatever it takes to preserve our reality. And
Yeah.
that's one of the major issues. And that's why I'm not even indifferent. I just didn't care. I don't care, like, for the monarchy. Like, if I was awarded an MBE or OBE, I would reject it straight away. I've said this how many years ago? I will reject it straight out of hand because I'm not going to be a member of the British Empire. Like,
That's
how many of
so-
my ancestors
That doesn't
have been
necessarily
killed?
exist anymore.
It does it.
No, but you know how they said that it doesn't exist anymore. When I think it was when they were going to when there was like a large petition about the British Museum returning a lot of stuff that was stolen in the Empire, and one of their excuses was that, well, the British Empire doesn't like the whole colony doesn't exist anymore.
It does.
But then it doesn't. It's like on a technicality, it doesn't exist.
It does.
But it does.
The Commonwealth. The
Yeah.
Commonwealth is the empire.
But essentially, that's how they got away with not allowing certain stuff from the museum to be sent back by saying that, well, it doesn't actually exist anymore because the countries are all independent and whatnot, and you know, all sorts of legal jargon and guinea corn. It doesn't
There's always
really.
loopholes,
100%.
when it comes to colonialism and racism. But the fact of the matter is that the wealth of this country is built on the backs of other countries and the work of indigenous people of the planet and the global majority.
Yeah.
That's the long and short of it. And no matter how they try to spin it, that's the reality. And no matter how much they try to suppress history and things like that, it's always going to come to the fore because there's accounts and people share stories. And the fact of the matter is that I cannot celebrate and be upset or be told to mourn for someone who I don't care for. Like, that's an abuser. That is an abusive entity.
Yeah.
Like, that's like saying, for example, I might have been molested as a child, yeah, and then my abuser dies, and then people say,
Go to
well,
the
you should
funeral.
be sad. You should go to the funeral.
Yeah.
You should mourn.
If that person was like famous or something.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Like,
No,
on the
but
day
if it's
to day-
like a regular guy, no one
But
really expects
the
you.
principle is still
but
the same.
still,
what I'm saying.
okay,
The
do-
principle is the same though.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say to you is that then you're basically saying you've got to mourn your abuser. That's Stockholm
Or
syndrome.
actually, it's even the thing where it's like, let's say it's a family friend or someone that you've grown up with,
Yeah, that-
and
that-
it's someone who used to babysit you, but you found out that they used to abuse your mum or your aunties or whatever, and they're like, oh, this person's dead, we're gonna go to the funeral. What? That makes no sense.
Nope.
Even though the abuse wasn't directly to me,
Yeah.
it's part of. Do you know what I mean?
In our lifetime, the Queen has been at the helm of some of the most horrific atrocities that have benefited her family and her entity. It's for me. It's not non-negotiable for me. I don't really care for the monarchy. I don't
Yeah.
care for what they do. I know the history. I try to research as much as possible, and it's very dark.
It
It's
is.
very,
a lot
very
of
dark.
it is dark. I'm not gonna lie.
So would you want it to be a republic then, the UK? Well, not UK.
Or the Republic of Great Britain or something.
Yeah.
It won't change much, but that's one thing. You need to dismantle part of the system, and that's a major part of the system. If you get rid of that, Republic's not going to change the way the government and the Tory government are because
No.
they're all in it for themselves. And the fact of the matter is that the power has been taken away from the people. Actually, the people have given the power away. Like, we haven't mobilized enough and said, look, we're going to stick to our guns and say, right, we're going to strike, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, to be in a direct antithesis of what you believe and what you're doing.
I don't know if I should bleep what I'm gonna say, but we're not. And do you know what it is? I feel like it's a thing where it's now British culture to be a thing where when something goes wrong, it's let's complain about it for a day, but we're all gonna conform anyways.
That's British culture.
Whereas other countries, our neighbours, the French, when something's wrong, them niggas light stuff on fire, and they get the government to hear us like, look, we're being serious. And as much as I'm not an advocate for anarchy and chaos and whatnot, but I feel like for certain things you need to go above just petitions and I'd say silent marches or protests, because that's not necessarily a method that is proven to cause change. Like, even when we were talking about after George Floyd when we came out and protested, and they were saying that, oh, they might pass a bill where it will now become illegal to protest, things like that. It's completely crazy. Or even when you go back to last Saturday when a lot of people came out for the death of Chris Kaba, and then all the news coverage said, oh yes, look at these patriotic people coming out, you know, for the Queen Elizabeth's death, whatnot. I think that's what I said. There's way too many black people here for this to be about Queen Elizabeth. I ain't gonna lie to you. And at first I was like, who are these people? I'm thinking, oh, this is the same day as whatever. And then I went on social and I saw, nah, it's not actually for the Queen. This is for the death of Chris Kaba. And obviously it's a thing where both things coincided with each other in terms of how close it was together. But it goes to show how they can just spin the whole thing to one direction. It's very, very crazy.
It's embarrassment though, isn't it? Because they know what's happened, these journalists, but they decided not to talk about it.
Exactly.
And there was just a media blackout, for want of a better word, for what happened. And this what happens when black people are killed. However, we need that same 2020 energy that we have for George Floyd, who was an American who was killed. And yes, it was tragic. It's horrible when police are killed, but this is happening on our doorstep.
Exactly.
And the outrage is not the same.
We can't cry about someone else's house and being on fire whilst ours is on fire.
But you know what it is? We're told, it's like selective outrage. It's like we're told what to be outraged about.
Nah, I don't think so. I think when we saw that George Floyd video, everyone was like, "No, that's fucked up."
No, but you know,
because we haven't seen the Chris Kaba one, and also because of his like past and people, you know, people gonna start saying having controversial thoughts like, "Oh, because he was a gang member, you know, they had to be."
That's my point.
You know,
So it goes to your point, but also I do believe that the George Floyd one is clear cut. Like, if you argue, you're just being like a complete devil's advocate, whereas this one, we haven't got the full information. Like, generally speaking, if we never see this video, people can generally make the case. I wouldn't agree with them, but they can make the case like, you know what, maybe the guy was scared.
Fair enough.
There was a firearm alert, so.
But my point is,
scared type thing.
The footage. Where did the footage go?
Yeah, that footage is gonna change everything.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
No, but where did the footage for George Floyd? Where did it go?
Straight
Who presented it to us?
Twitter.
It was someone recording it. Yeah.
Okay, but where did we see it? We saw it on a global scale.
Yeah.
We saw it. It was allowed to be on social media, but it was on the television networks. It was given to us. So we were told pretty much we should be outraged. There was many people that have been killed. Mike Brown, other people been caught on camera being killed. Eric Garner, like, same thing. But the fact of the matter is that it was selective outrage. Like, you know what, we're going to get behind this, because there was no hiding it. Because what was going on at that time? Lockdown, COVID. So it was spreading around on social media like wildfire anyway. So with Chris Kaba now, the same thing is that we don't have the footage. Fine, fair enough. But people want to query, oh, because he might have been doing this, and yeah, he might have been doing that. The fact of the matter is, an unarmed black man is dead. Just the same way as Eric Garner, Mike Brown, any of the, like Trayvon Martin, this is dead. And the fact of the matter is, then we've got some of our own people saying, yeah, well, if he was, you know, you live by the gun, you die by the gun.
That's one thing that pissed me off, because I saw a little segment on that was doing the works on Twitter of another podcast being like, oh, like, you know, we shouldn't be complaining like,
the tricky one.
Yeah.
No.
Finish what I'm gonna say. Yeah. Listen. So I saw them talking about like, oh, like, yeah, so what? He's a gunman, whatever. I thought you can't just say, oh, the police shouldn't be killing us when we're doing it to ourselves, whatever. The week after, but then obviously there was another clip, like an extended clip, where he gave more context to it, obviously saying like, oh, obviously it's sad, but we need to wake up and realize that, look, if we are going to be outraged about police killing us, we need to have that same outrage whenever it's one of us killing each other.
Some people do, but other people don't, because of the lifestyle that they're living. But again, that's what I'm saying to you, it's selective outrage. It's that we're using some information which we don't know to be true, and we're not sure. We don't have the video, but people are deciding that, you know what, I'm not going to get behind that because I'm not too sure. But at the end of the day, what's dangerous about that? And I know Tricky, do you know what I mean? I know Tricky, and we've done a podcast together, and they were going, you know, my friend from United Border, Justin, they were kind of going back and forth. And the issue is, in my eyes, if we then justify to some degree that, okay, he was a gangster and he might have been a gunman or whatever it may be, but he's been shot and killed by police. It was execution.
Yeah.
It was a one shot in the windscreen. If that happened to me, yeah, then people could be like, yeah, well, he must have done something. Or, you know, he was, you know, talking bad about the police and blah. Yeah. There's always a justification.
They'll probably use like something from this episode.
But that's my point. There's always a justification when it's a black death. If that was a white person, mad outrage. Sarah Everard, mad outrage.
True.
But when it was happening to black women in police custody, or and their houses, Cherry Gross, Joy Gardner. Like, there was no outrage from the UK. There was none.
No.
And that's what I'm trying to say to you, is that people decide, okay, we're giving this information, now I'm going to be outraged because I've kind of been told to.
Yeah.
Even at the peak of the BLM protests in 2020, when that I cannot for the life of me remember her name, but she got shot not too far from
Sasha
us.
Johnson.
Yeah, in the
Peckham.
head. Yeah. And I was thinking, this isn't something that just happens randomly, and because they said, oh yeah, you know, it was at a house party in Peckham and blah blah, and then tried to use the history of Peckham to sort of justify that, oh, this is why it possibly could have happened and whatnot.
Right.
It makes no sense.
That's the narrative. So when the 9-year-old white girl was tragically shot in Liverpool,
Yeah.
there was massive outrage, wasn't there?
Yeah.
There was massive outrage, and that's the thing, that life is a life. The fact is, an innocent man, because police can't be judge, jury, and executioner. You're there to apprehend and then get that person to custody, and then the criminal justice system does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
You cannot then decide, right, I'm not really too sure, and I feel I'm a threat, I'm going to shoot that person.
So you
or
believe
take that person
Trident
on.
shouldn't have like guns and stuff?
The thing is,
That's kind of.
Do you know what it is?
where
I feel
I'm
like
thinking about the solution and what we can do. If what can Trident do in
well,
like?
I think Trident was disbanded, but you have armed police.
Yeah, armed
Yeah.
police,
And the issue that we have is that if I've had a car before and they've stopped me and they say it might be linked to firearms, I'm like, okay, prove it. But the thing is, you're using that justification. So they could get something wrong one day and be like, they could follow you in your car
Yeah.
and say, oh yeah, it was linked to firearms, or it's linked to this, or linked to that, or it's a
the
rental car.
description of that car.
And that's my point, is that you can't blur the lines and say, well, this person lived by the gun, so they died by the gun. This is a state-sponsored killing. This is a state-sponsored death. Just like so many people, Smiley Culture, Sean Rigg, Rashawn Child. There's so many of these that have happened to black people in this country, and when you go through the inquest system, we don't get justice.
Even if
So
you look
it's
at Mark Duggan.
It's a dangerous president, and it's the same thing. Like, Mark Duggan was out here doing stuff, of course, we understand that.
Yeah.
But an innocent man, in that time, an unarmed man, was killed.
And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense, like, regardless of the person's past or whatever. If, for example, do you know this? It would have been different if for example, they said, oh yeah, they were chasing someone from an armed robbery, all that sort of stuff. It was a complete car chase. They caught it off, and then it looked like they were gonna, like, let shots off or whatever. So they took necessary action or whatever. That's a completely different situation to someone just being, I guess, circled and then shot.
So let me say this then. If the Met Police, that's the official narrative, and they've got nothing to hide, why hasn't the footage been released already?
Exactly.
And
I
that's
think
what-
transparency would definitely make this whole thing.
What's the point in having
and
body-worn footage?
I was about
if
to
we're
say
not
the same
gonna-
thing.
There's no point in having it, because
Yeah.
then you don't release it, because then people then can't query it. And this is what I'm trying to say to you, is that this is a narrative which is racially biased, and people within the police, there are some officers that are obviously racist. There are others that are
100%.
not. There's others that are fantastic people doing the job to the fullest extreme in the best way possible. But there are other people that are not. And how do you get that out of society? How do you get that out of a police? Because it's about it's state sanctioned, because the government and the criminal justice system predominantly white. So when something happens, I don't agree with that.
And
Yeah, open verdicts, and then you got families fighting for justice.
do you know what's crazy? This all stems from education, when you really deep it. Because, like you just said, so the whole, I guess, process, police to the courts, to the prison systems, yeah? You get apprehended, you get questioned, whatever, you go to court in front of a judge, if there's a jury, depending on whatever case, and then you get sentenced. But if the people who are in charge of sentencing aren't diverse, or there isn't, to get to that level where you're a judge, you go through thorough education.
Yep.
And if education isn't spread out throughout the whole of the nation, and when I say the whole of the nation, I mean every colour, sex,
Yep.
ethnicity, all of that. If it's not spread out, how are you going to expect any sort of change at the very top where it matters, where all these decisions are being made?
Because it comes back to preservation.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm trying to say to you, is that it's an elitist mindset that I'm going to do this because this now fits the narrative of the people and the group of people that I routinely move with.
Well,
and this is the problem.
Well, for me, I don't know. This might be a bit bleak to think about, but I don't expect better from any of them, to be fair, because like this system is kind of, how do I say this? Boris Johnson, I think a year ago, 2 years ago, said, when it was the Britannia song, I don't know if you guys remember that, and when people were taking down the statues and stuff, he was like, listen, we're not ashamed of our history. When he said that that day, everything, I don't know, it felt like epiphany, like everything just clicked in
Yeah.
my head. If someone's not sorry, you're not even gonna get the apology or they're making amends. Like, for example, in America, pretty much everyone universally agrees that slavery was fucked up and that black people were actually hard done by. Some people might think maybe they shouldn't get money from it, but they do believe that slavery was fucked up. So at least a reparations conversation can start to. But with this country, it's a bit weird where it's like, I don't feel like the white majority, I'm not gonna say all white people, the white majority actually believes, you know what, we're kind of doing these people wrong. I feel like generally, as you were saying, there's a lot of but.
Do you know what it is?
So it's like,
with that,
I don't expect better with any of these situations. Like, it's sad to say, but
it's survival.
and
the reason because of that is because so this is what I say sometimes when you go America, like for the first time as a British person, you understand it because there's a thing where you understand that it's just a different world completely. It's not just different accents. It's not just different, sides of the road or whatever. It's different lifestyle majority because here it's more like, how can I say it? We want to be ignorant to what we know, and it's a thing where everyone is sort of wants to be polite, wants to be respectful.
Overt racism.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
In America, it's more overt. It's in your face. So you got proud racists in America. Like, yeah, I'm racist, and what?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's symptomatic of their whole system, their whole process. Because that's what America is based on, race.
Yeah.
Without race, America has nothing.
Absolutely.
The capitalistic outlook, is underpinned by exploitation and racial hierarchy. But where did they get that from? They got that from here.
Exactly.
America just perfected it to a further degree. In America, in this country, when people get found out to be racist, they hide. Oh my gosh, is that some British shame? No, I'm not racist.
Exactly.
I've got a black granddaughter. Like, okay, great. Like, you still said those words.
Yeah.
And this is the problem that we have, is that we have different sets of racial hierarchy, capitalism, exploitation in different parts of the West, which are predominantly white imperialist countries, and they're never going to admit, because the minute they admit to, we're wrong, that's it.
Exactly.
But we can't get reparations. Do you want to know why we can't get reparations? Because we're not recognized. Africa as a continent is not united.
No.
So that as they're still thinking we did them a favor. So
when you think about it, even people that have tried to unite Africa in the past, where are they now?
Yeah, of course, they're killed. But what you got to understand is that when you talk about reparations, you have to be recognized by the World Court. Yeah. So, for example, with the Japanese in the internment camps that they had in the West Coast during the Second World War and just after, the Japanese were put in internment camps, concentration camps over there because of fear that they were going to do, homegrown terrorism. But they were American Japanese. Yeah. When you talk about African American, you're African first.
Yeah.
And you're American second. So you talk about the Constitution actually doesn't apply to black people from Africa.
No.
Now, Africa is not a united country, it's not the United States of Africa. It's all different states. So when you go to the World Court, that's not going to be recognized as a sovereign nation because it's different nations in Africa. Yeah. So when you go to the World Court and you want to put a reparations claim in, it's got to be sanctioned by another sovereign country and you've got to be recognized. Yeah. So with Japan, they were recognized by other countries. Yep, they've got a claim here. It goes to the World Court. They've got a nation state. Great. Africa's not a nation state.
You can't. Exactly. There's Nigeria, Ghana, all these different places they've taken from.
And that's the issue. So we'll never get reparations. And go on.
The thing is that with African Americans, they don't know where they're from.
And that's the whole point of it. But most of them,
most of them don't necessarily know where they're from, and that's sort of this is why I say obviously, like when they were doing the whole slavery and when they were on ships, cool. This is your new Santiago Munoz or whatever, taking them off. It's so smart. It's scary.
It is, but it's not. It goes further than that because when you look at the migration over that period of time, there was a limited amount of Africans that could be transported to the Americas.
Yeah.
Now, before I remember I spoke about a book, They Came Before Columbus, which dispels the whole myth that they were all shipped over from the Africa. Africans were already in the Americas before that. Yeah, when you go to the Olmecs, you look at the pyramids in Peru, South America. There's a transatlantic drift.
Yeah.
Yeah, which basically when the ships sail from the west coast of Africa, it goes its natural course and it ends up either on the east coast of the Americas or the South America. Yeah. So the numbers that they're talking about, you would have had to have like 10,000 people on a ship, like which wasn't realistic. Yeah. So it's a myth. What they've done is that the Native Americans were black. They weren't like what you see, like the Cherokees. The
Yeah.
Cherokees were black. So what they've done, like you said, it's smart. They've just dispelled your whole history and your whole identity and said, okay, cool, you're African American. But who got reparations in America? Native Americans, because you have your reserves and all the stuff like that.
Yeah.
But because our identity is defined as African American, we'll never get reparations because
Exactly.
we're not American first. So the Constitution doesn't actually apply to them. So when you're getting people shot and killed, like that's why these things, I'm never supported by the government in the sense that, right, okay, cool, you're going to go to prison because it's not seen as a crime because you're not a citizen.
Yeah.
That's how deep it is. So when you think about our progress, you've got to unite Africa. It's got to be the United States of Africa. It's got to be literally, recognized by another sovereign nation. Or you just create, the Republic of Africa.
Yeah.
And that's your nation state. And then boom. And then you can go to the World Court and get that. But I would say right now, I don't think we're in a position for reparations because we haven't been able to heal and rehabilitate.
In terms of the UK, right?
In terms of the world, in terms of the global
Yeah.
majority of the indigenous peoples. And I speak specifically for African because we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the know-how because we haven't rehabilitated ourselves.
And do you know what it is? I feel like even in terms of all the races, I feel like as black people, we're just not united. I feel like it's crazy because obviously in our own communities, we can be united. But then even something like, to talk back when you were talking about, I can't remember whose name you said, someone's podcast when I was mentioning it.
Oh, tricky.
Yeah. You have people that will argue for and against on both the same case.
He wasn't arguing for and against.
No, I know.
Let me just clarify because I didn't do it earlier. What he was saying was that, so they had like a 47-minute episode. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
That little section was more so kind of, how do we move forward? Like what the main point was, let's just stop this gun crime, all this stuff. That was his main. It wasn't necessarily. He wasn't justifying it at all. It was more so like, listen, the only reason these departments exist a lot of the time is because there is these firearms. Now, obviously, there's going to be racism regardless, but what he was more so saying is that we need to stop this level of badness because a lot of the time these people will form quickly just to destroy us. So we need
100%.
to stop
And
these
what I'm saying is, the byproduct of that video going viral, there are people arguing for and against on both sides. You know what I mean?
People using him as like a...
Yeah, using them to sort of push their own sort of agenda, which is what I was trying to get at. And it's a thing where if we're so divided on something as simple as an innocent black man was wrongfully shot, if we're so divided on something like that, then we're not ready for the big conversations. If we're being totally honest to ourselves.
Yeah, but it's like a deeper conversation as well, because it's like a lot of people don't view innocence as that moment. Because I view like he died as an innocent man.
Yeah.
But a lot of people view him as his whole life.
Exactly.
They try to put different things. So it's like...
Which doesn't necessarily make sense.
Because we all don't agree on the word innocence, because we all don't agree on a lot of the issues, it's hard to like have this one point where we all unite. So that's why it's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
It's nature though, isn't it? It's human nature to not always agree with certain things. But what we've got to understand is about the social conditioning that has been imparted on us for the best part of nearly 500 years. And everything has basically been destroyed. Any movement that we've had, like you said, we got Patrice Lumumba, the first democratically elected leader of an African country in the 1961, I believe, killed by the MI5 CIA.
Yep.
Dissolved him, kept one of his teeth, gave it, someone kept that. And this is what I'm trying to say to you, this is what you're dealing with. And there's so many different people, Steve Biko, you look about the Black Panthers.
Yeah, what
Fred
they did to
Hampton.
Black Wall Street.
Right, so
That
all
was
this Tulsa,
crazy,
the Tulsa
I was about to say,
you
yeah.
go over it, and you got to understand is that when we have mobilized and when we have done certain things, it's been destroyed by white supremacists, by white imperialism. So we've got to give ourselves credit because we have continuously tried. If you look at, for example, let's look at music. Let's look at music in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Would you say it's overly positive?
Yeah.
There's a black music.
Yeah, you would.
Positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The music that we produce.
It doesn't the vibe,
Yeah, right, cool. In the 70s, talking about love, you're talking about this, talking about rehabilitation. You get to the 80s, hip hop towards the end, but it was still about love and
there might
substance.
be like drug references in terms of like they were on coke, but it's still a bit happy.
Or shrooms and psychedelics and stuff like that. That was the time, you know what I mean? There was an enlightening or enlightenment of people. But then what you see with gangster rap, which was again given to us, and the new form of hip hop is that this music has been used to suppress us even more. because we were expressing ourselves in a way that we were recovering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we were expressing ourselves. We're recovering. We're in recovery. Now what you've got is you've got a different strand of music, and now you've got this mainstream kind of hip hop or rap, shall I say, which I can't get with. I just can't get with it. And you look at who's the rapper that got killed? Was it PNB Rock?
Oh yeah, PNB Rock.
Right.
Yeah.
So I never heard of him until he got killed. But on that record label, Empire, 6 rappers have been killed. Which saying people are talking about insurance money and that's what they're doing and blah blah blah.
That's a conspiracy theory, though.
It's not a conspiracy theory for
No,
me
it definitely is, because if you look at the amount of people they have on that,
who are the other
label,
people that got killed on there?
King Von, there was someone else.
Oh, okay.
Mo3, there's loads of people.
Was Young Dolph on there? Wait.
Young Dolph is independent, but he might have distributed through. I hear what you're saying.
My point is,
it's a coincidence. To me, it's a coincidence because
I
the
don't
amount
know.
of people.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that's what it is, but
yeah.
when we say conspiracy theory, that's saying to people, you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. And that's why I don't really like using conspiracy theory, because certain things were conspiracy theories in people's minds and then they found out to be true. So we can't just dispel that and say, okay, that's an alternate kind of outlook. You know what I mean? So that's an alternate outlook. That's how we have to look at it. But what I'm saying to you is that we have tried over and over again to our music, our vibe, everything. If you took black people out of this world,
this
what
world
would you have?
is ridiculous.
It would be bland and unseasoned.
No
I'll be
flavour.
real with you. I'll be real with you.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll be real with you because we bring the vibes. We bring everything. We're innovative. We've invented so many things that we haven't got credit for. You know, the light bulb.
Yeah.
Who invented the light bulb?
See how crazy that is.
Who invented the light bulb? Who were you told?
They tell you it's a white man.
Who is it? What's his name?
Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison.
That's what they tell you.
Yeah. Is it Lewis Howard Latimer was the one that he created the filament,
The filament, yeah.
which now allows it to shine bright. It was paper filament before.
Yeah, which is dumb because it would just.
There's so many, and this is what you got to say is that this is plagiarism of the highest form, and this goes back to when they came to the Africas, Greece, ancient Greece, Rome.
And
we taught them everything.
It's crazy because whenever we think about maths and they say, oh yes, the ancient Greeks, but the Egypt is where maths was made. When you think of things like Pythagoras' theorem, that's not a Greek name, bro.
No.
Like, even it's crazy because if you look at hieroglyphs and whatnot, even the language of hieroglyphs is so. It's crazy because although it's a language where yes, each individual things mean words, it's more of like it's stories. Do you know what I mean? It's a story to tell you this is what happened and this is where it is. It's not just like your normal ABCs that you just. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy, man. I can't lie to you. Even when you think about ancient Egypt, like the way they used to preserve bodies and like mummifying.
How do you build a pyramid without mathematics? And that's what I'm trying to say is that everything we've been given is a lie, because you cannot be educated by your oppressor and learn anything truly about yourself. Yeah. If we were just based on a school education, we wouldn't even be having these conversations.
100%.
We've had to educate ourselves and actually dig deep to find these things. And people are digging deep all the time. This is why it's so important to read. And they say, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it where? In a book. And this is what we've got to do. And me personally, I've always been someone who wants to learn and learn about my history, learn about myself. But as I get older and my son's 16, it's important that we enlighten ourselves with as much information as possible, because like you said, education is the route out. You know what I mean? That's the power. Yeah. You know? So
it's just crazy, to be honest with you, because when you think about how deep it goes, to the point where even to the point where it's like, we have slaves and whatnot, as like in America, they don't say it as if slaves weren't here. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Everything is hidden. There's been I can't remember, I think it was in Bristol, there's a whole hill, it's called Black Boy Hill. You look at the history of it, that's literally where they used to put at the top of the hill just black men for sale, auction, off like that. Like, it's crazy. And this is one thing that I don't like about the UK, and even when you speak to Irish people, why they say they hate the UK so much, and I'm like, bro, like it's crazy because they have Northern Ireland and all that sort of stuff, and it's like you guys are just so. It's not like you're ashamed of your past, because to be ashamed of something, you have to admit that it's there. Whereas, or admit that it's wrong. Whereas people in the UK, it's just like, well, no, because it didn't happen here. Oh no, it happened in America, or it happened in Belgium, or all these other places.
We abolished slavery. William Wilberforce. No, it's
exactly.
Lie. You didn't abolish slavery. You actually said, okay, we're going to outlaw it, but it was still happening. because the crown was making money still to this day. When you look at the East India Company, you look at what is it? Like all these
Unilever.
Unilever, thank you.
Unilever sold Nigeria to the British government.
Yeah.
How the fuck does that make any sense?
And that's a Dutch company, isn't it? It's
It
mad.
makes no sense.
You look at that history, it's so much, and you just become entrenched in so much darkness. You just think, all right, I need a break.
Exactly.
It's plagiarism of the highest form, literally plagiarism and exploitation of the highest form. And for us now, it's not even about just black people. We're not just the sole solution to our enlightenment and our freedom, because it's a global issue. Like when you talk about the human race in general, and racism is a racial hierarchy. Race is a social construct. It's given to us. Who's at the top? White people, and everybody else is underneath, because we're the best. We're ordained by God. We should have this. We should do that. But what people got to understand, even using the word racism, I'm not even trying to use that word anymore, because it upholds the system.
It's just more like a more polished form of classism, because you see how in Victorian times when they had like the workhouses and all that sort of stuff, and classism was like at its peak, where you know, lower class, your working class, all that sort of stuff, and the way they were discriminated, it's just been remixed. That's all it is.
Feudalism. That's what it was in this country. That the peasants were working the land. You had a lord who owned the land, and then you had to produce things for them, and then they would take their cut and you would get the scraps. And this is where we've got to understand the history of this country, going back 1,000 years, going back to the Crusades. It's been the same thing over and over again, and they're doing it like now. You see the oppression that we're facing, and why people are striking and doing what they're doing, because the power has to be with the people. And going back to the race thing, in the sense that we can't solve it by ourselves, because white people and other oppressed people got to understand that this isn't just about racism.
Exactly.
This is about classism. This is about elitism, and this is about white imperialism. So we're all being oppressed, because when you think about, you go back to the 1690s in Virginia, racism as a construct was given to people. Black and white as a social construct was given to people, because what was happening, people were coming up and they were rioting and killing their slave owners and stuff, and saying, right, we're all oppressed, because there was a commonality, because everyone understand that we're being exploited, discriminated, and oppressed, so we're going to stand up and we're going to take him out and do what we've got to do. So what do? Okay, well, you're black and you don't have these rights. You're 2/3 of a human being, 3/5 of a human being. You white people, you working class now, you're one of us.
Exactly. And then now it's like, oh wait, we're not oppressed because we're part of them.
Yeah.
Now you're the enemy.
That's what it is.
It's crazy, because it's like for all of these things to sort of, I guess, crumble and fade away, there's some sort of invented common enemy. Like even when you think about Second World War, when we were talking about Hitler, we had to partner up with, I think it was Joseph Stalin at the same time. He was doing pretty much the same thing that Hitler was doing in his own backyard, but it was only convenient to use him because, oh, yes, it's a common enemy. We're not fighting you. It's me and you against him. He's the one that's wrong, even though we're all in the wrong.
Was it Stalin First World War?
Nah, Stalin was Second World War, end of Second World War. After that was like when it started going into like Cold War series. He was like at the start of it, I think.
Even going to talking about Hitler, the royal family were in league with Hitler many years before his uprising and in Germany, and he's coming to power.
Yeah.
So was it Edward? He was meeting with him. I think it was King Edward or whoever it was. They were meeting with him regular. There's got pictures of him that chilling with Hitler. And what I'm trying to say, even the royal family are not English.
They're German. Yeah,
they're German. They're Austrian. They're Scandinavian.
It's the brother from the First World War. I can't remember his King. I can't remember his name.
Dad?
Huh?
The Queen's dad.
No, the King of Germany.
No, it's in Austria.
Was it Austria?
That was anyway.
It's one of them, man. Either way.
Yeah.
Is basically how
Franz Ferdinand, wasn't it, who was killed or something?
Yeah, Franz Ferdinand was killed in Austria, but that's what sparked the Second World War.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's crazy, but when you go back, you'll see it, because I think it's Queen Victoria's husband is her German cousin, who was the brother of the German king or something. It's crazy. You need to go back, and I need to go back and polish the facts that I'm trying to spell out. But either way, it's crazy. We're all in league with each other, and it's a thing where if you go back to looking at that, how the royals are sort of German and how it's all like German influence, it's like, okay, well look, this brother's just gone bad. We need someone who we know is also on that level of badness to be our ally, so we can take him down. And then it's like a whole, oh yes, this uplifts me and my agenda. Do you get what I mean? But at the same time, when that's done, we're trying to cut ties and, oh no, we can't trust Russians, we can't trust these people. It's just all.
My point. It's a selective outrage. You're told who to be outraged against.
It's crazy.
And when you turn the focus on them, oh no, we don't do this. No, we don't do that.
Exactly.
It's denial. It's cognitive dissonance. And this is where we're at. So listen, these people, man, it's an illness. Put it that way. It's an illness, and we're also ill because we've been oppressed. We've been part of that psychosis.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where we have so much trauma.
I think Malcolm X was like, I was reading his book and he was speaking about how certain black people, once they, like what you said with the white people when they were like, oh, you're part of us now. Certain black people, once they get to like middle class, the 9-to-5ers, they start acting like those white people.
Exactly.
I've never been stopped
because they feel like in order to preserve it, they need to be in that same, it's not, I don't want to say mentality, but that same club. As them, so that if they do actually, say, you know what, nah, all of this is wrong. Now that I'm here in a position of power, I want to say this is wrong. They're scared that everything I worked my life for is gonna go away.
Yeah, they're in a mode. They're in survival.
Yeah, it's literally survival at that point, and they're doing whatever they can. Whenever you have people like, what's his name, David Lammy or whatever, that I hate that brother, man. I've seen so many of that brother's tweets. I'm thinking this guy is like, if there was bleep this, but if there was ever someone to be the captain of Coons, bruv, it's him. I swear to you, bro.
The thing is that it's representative of the plantations, isn't it? You have the house Negro and you have the field Negro, which Malcolm X spoke about. And when they get to the house, I'm better than you because I'm here. I'm with Massa.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I got clothes on my back.
Samuel Jackson and Leo DiCaprio.
Yeah. And that's what we got to understand is that psychosis of racism, but also of white imperialism, is a problem that we've had and we've undertaken. Some of us have to do it for survival mode because we feel we have to do it. But then when you go against a system like Malcolm did, you get killed. Yeah. When you go against a system like Martin Luther King, you get killed. Yeah.
Either way you did it, peaceful or not.
And that's the problem. Well, Martin Luther King, you know why he got killed? It wasn't because it was the peaceful stuff. They were happy with that. He started talking about reparations, 40 acres and a mule, which is what the promise was to every African American at that time when they were freed from or emancipated from slavery, which they weren't. And when he started talking about reparations and money for my people, that's when they said, nah, later.
Yeah.
Gone.
But that's what I'm saying, like in terms of where his, I guess, I don't want to say his ethos, but the main, how can I say it, the main approach was more peaceful than someone like Malcolm X. It goes to show that it's, look, either way you do it, once you touch that nerve, where it's like, whoa, we're a bit scared now. You're gone.
Yeah, but even Malcolm X was peaceful. Like even when he split from the Nation of Islam, he was still
he was still peaceful.
He wasn't like he changed his tone a bit and he did dial down. He was still screaming black supremacy, which
black supremacy is a myth.
No, but what in terms of the way he was talking about it.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, but that's what they tried to call him, a black supremacist.
I get what you're saying.
So what I'm trying to say is that it was black empowerment. But what happened was that when he went to Mecca, he went and he saw people, Muslims from all different backgrounds and all different creeds. United. And he was like, how can I be calling the white man a devil when I've got a white man here who's a Muslim, who's a pure-hearted and is a human? Yeah. And that's when he was like, I've got it wrong. And that's when he came back, he had the talk at United Nations where he was talking about the advancement of people and that it was a global race and that we need to come together, blah. That's when they were like, no, he can't unify the people. If this guy unifies the people, it's a wrap. And that's what I was saying to you before. Black people cannot do it by themselves because white people need to understand, and other oppressed people, when you talk about Palestine, Yemen, Syria, Vietnam,
Lebanon, even
everywhere, it's literally, there's oppressed peoples globally, and it's all the same group of people, government, elitists, supremacists, imperialists, that are saying, right, we can do this to preserve the status quo and the hierarchy of things. And that's where Malcolm, I love Malcolm. Malcolm X is like one of my greatest inspirations. Like when I went to Harlem earlier this year, it's the first time I've been to Harlem, and I actually went to the Audubon Theatre where he was killed, and I was actually standing in the spot where he died. And I went there on the off chance we went there because we thought it was open. So myself and my girlfriend, we went, and I never felt so much different emotions. There was a guy that's like you class him as a janitor, but he wasn't. This guy is very clued. He knows the family very well. And we walked up. He says, it's closed today. And he said, I'm really sorry. And then he was like, you know what? Come in. You know, we were in there for 3.5 hours, chopping it up with this guy. He knows the family very intimately, like very well. And we were talking about Islam and Muslims and talking about Malcolm and talking about what happened. And it was one of the most powerful moments that I've ever had in my life, because Malcolm is someone I read about, and I was in the same place, and it was very eerie. You know what I mean? My hair kind of stood on the back of my neck, and I was like, wow, man, like brother Malcolm. And in that moment, I just felt so sad that humans could do that to another human who was trying to progress humanity.
Yeah.
And even though, yes, he was coming out and saying, yeah, we've got to do what they do to us, which essentially, to some degree, is right.
Yeah.
But you can't go to a gunfight, with your fists.
You can't.
You can't. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what the technology, that's what wiped us out. But Malcolm, man, that's my guy, man. Malcolm's my guy. You read his autobiography?
Yeah, I'm at the bit where he got bagged, so he's in prison now.
Yeah, have you read it?
Nah, not
You
yet.
need to read
Yeah,
it.
it's quality though.
You need to read
The thing is, like, it's just crazy, because even if you're talking like aside of black people, we all learned in primary school that like someone like, what's his name? Gandhi is like this brilliant guy that we should all sort of align to, and you know his morals and whatnot. But then I can't remember what year it was when they killed Gaddafi. Was it 2011?
2011, 2013 maybe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And we were taught that, this Gaddafi guy is like, he was going to be the next Osama bin Laden. He was an absolute terrorist, blah, blah. But when you actually go and read these things, it's very...
2011, you're right.
It's crazy, because you start to sort of unlearn, but learn at the same time. You sort of start to break away from what they want everyone to know as the general education, and it teaches you more, because Gaddafi was sort of at the forefront of making Africa like a united republic and having
currency, having a gold-based currency.
Exactly. Whereas the thing where we don't necessarily need to rely on dollars like Africa heavily does, or even pounds. It's just, we're gonna have our own thing. And
there was also a dam that he was building, a power tunnel that was going to provide power for majority of Africa.
Yeah.
And it was some really great technology. But with Gaddafi, even in Libya, if you look at the state of Libya now, the country is totally destroyed. But when you used to have get married, you used to get 50 grand, $50,000 US, and then when you had your first child, I believe you got another like 25, and they gave you a house, land, fuel was free, petrol was free, like in Libya. So this is how they were living. That is a total threat to the order of things.
100%.
And that's why you got to understand is that Africa won't be united until we decide, right, we're going to have our own army, our own military, because how can you go to a gunfight with nothing?
Yeah.
But they will never, I'm telling you, they will never nuke Africa.
No.
Because that provides everything.
Yeah.
Even you look at Congo, like DR or the Central African, I think, Republic, which is another country as well, that provides a lot of just fundamental things for companies such as, when you think about tech,
Cobalt,
all of that comes from there. Yeah, it's crazy that all of these companies are worth X amount of billion, but then the country itself is in ruins. It's so mad, and it just baffles me. It just continues to baffle me. And then even when you think about like the people who are in power there, and then being corrupt and whatnot, it's just like, but bro, please, I beg you, open your eyes. I beg you, open your eyes.
What other alternative is there for some of them? Go against the system and become another Patrice Lumumba?
True,
Biko?
it's
and
true,
that's what
but
I'm saying, you got to be brave in those situations, because you got to know that when you go and speak out against the status quo and the power, there's a threat. You know what I mean?
They'll kill you, and then they'll make you look a bit wild. Like
And
when they started bringing up Martin Luther King's cheating.
Yeah.
Like they'll start to make you look crazy. Like
And-
after you've died.
And sometimes the worst part is that they won't even kill you themselves. They'll use your own people to kill you.
Sometimes. But
In some situations, but
so literally what you just said is the same thing with Chris Kaba. Let's defame his character.
yeah.
Let's actually dehumanize him so that death doesn't matter.
And sometimes, and in Chris Carver's case, when people talk about the whole situation, it's like they forget the actual incident.
Yeah.
Like it's more so, he's done this in his life, he's done that.
And then that's when it sort of makes up false scenarios in people's heads, where it's like, oh no, the police actually did us a favor. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this criminal's off the streets now.
And
Thank
that's
you.
it. It's the
Thank you, police.
criminalisation of black people. You know, the dehumanization of black people is an age-old tactic. You know, so we can't be swayed by that. the fact of the matter is, yes, if he was involved in things, fine, that is what he was involved in, but he shouldn't have been killed.
He should not have been killed.
Simple
No.
as, you know. So yeah, man.
And it's crazy because sometimes, like, when I see stuff like this, man, I'll just be, I don't know, man. I tend to not, like, obviously it's different because I'm not gonna say I don't get involved with politics, because this necessarily isn't politics. It's just basic, like, do you know what I mean? It's not politics.
But talking about this stuff is political. Yeah. And that's what you gotta understand. Like, even my work with Mentivity, and you think about the things that we're doing, like Midday, and you're part of it, like, it's political. You're going against the system. Like, you're literally saying, I'm gonna disrupt this. I'm gonna come in here and tell people the truth. You know what I mean? And that's what I do. Like, even on my platforms, you've seen. Like, I will talk. But the thing is, the entity of Sace Holmes Lewis and Mentivity are not one and the same. Mentivity is a part of me, but Sace, the person, has always been rebellious.
Exactly.
There's always been someone who's always going to speak up and say certain things. So we have to do it more so in our droves. And this is why I love social media, because we've never been more connected as a people globally.
Yeah.
We're having global conversations about the same thing at the same time. Yeah. Whenever have we been able to do that?
And do you know what's crazy? Just imagine if something like social media, like, for example, I'm not even going to say all of it, like Instagram, TikTok, whatever, even if it's just something like Twitter. Imagine if Twitter was around back when Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were at their peaks.
I mean, the Andrew Tate.
No,
Andrew Tate, Malcolm X.
Yeah, they'll probably. The thing is, you see, the thing with Andrew, Jonas, it's a good thing you actually brought that up, because even with Andrew Tate, it's almost a thing where people have already clocked onto a lot of the stuff that he said.
Sorry to interrupt you. Please don't say his name next to Malcolm's, please.
No,
I know that. I'm just saying.
What I'm saying is they'll use his earlier stuff and be like, no, he's a threat. Look what he's talking about.
Andrew Tate?
No, they'll say
Malcolm
X. Early stuff.
Andrew Tate is a misogynist.
We're not even going to touch on him. But
it's disgusting.
I'm not comparing their characters.
No, I know that. I'm just making sure that people know. I don't want to get touched by people as well.
That's a egregious crime.
But I hear what you're saying.
But with Twitter and all their TOS, they could just say, listen, Malcolm, I'm not trying to hear all of that.
But it's, you know how it's, obviously it'll get to that point, but I'm saying, you know how it's with Andrew Tate, a lot of his stuff is already out there, where a lot of what he said has already resonated with some people that take it in like that. It would be the same with Malcolm. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, of course. It'd be
I get
it wasn't just Malcolm. There were so many people.
Exactly.
And then talk about the civil rights movement, that there was a collective movement with people that were also embracing communism, because that was about socialism and collectivism to overcome the capitalism. And
at that time, when you think about it, communism was like, if we just take it just to white people here in America, communism was the biggest threat to the country. And then the second biggest threat was black people. But then when you mix the two together, oh my goodness, my house is on fire. Which is, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what probably made them look at what they did in, was it the Tulsa bombings?
That was a lot before kind of communism in America. America was like 1950s with Senator Joseph McCarthy. Joseph McCarthy.
But it was sort of at the time where it was like us and, I don't want to say us, but Americans and like, don't want to get my things mixed up right now.
No, that was those are two. That's like 40 years difference. What the issue was that it's not even an issue. Russia has never colonized any black country. Yeah. Okay, that's a fact. Yeah, Russia was also funding a lot of those activists of the time in the civil rights movement. So that's why a lot of them were like, communism for me makes sense, because you go to Cuba's the same thing. Russia was funding them.
That's what I was going to say, Cuba. Because what America was fearing was that, after the Second World War, Russia are the next biggest thing. And the way they do stuff in terms of communism is a threat to us. And then when they started moving into Cuba, that's why if you meet anyone who's Cuban, I think it's like 1 out of 4 people have like a Russian surname. It's crazy. They'll be like Tiago Krashevsky or something crazy. It's because they sent a lot of their engineers, naval staff, I think some people to do with agriculture as well, when they started moving their, like, it's not like battleships or whatever, but it's like their army bases into Cuba, which sort of sparked the whole Bay of Pigs movement, the whole Cold War, where it's like, oh my gosh, they could invade at any sort of time.
Horrible for America, because if they wanted to bomb them from Cuba.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the biggest thing, because it's like America could have been gone before they even had the chance to react, which is their biggest thing. So then when you start to have your third biggest threat mixing in with your second biggest threat, it's like, nah, we got to do something instantly. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I feel like all of these things, they feel like it's justified in their sense because, oh no, we're just protecting our country from the outsiders. But how can you say you're protecting from the outsiders when the people that are complaining and being oppressed are the people that live 2 streets down from you? Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just, it's crazy. And, bruv, I don't know, man.
If you guys like that, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be up to date with all of our releases. And tune into the whole episode now on Spotify and Apple.
We